Steve Phelps, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, Brian.
So, commissioner, I think of commissioners in football. You used to work for the NFL, commissioners of baseball. What is the primary role of the NASCAR commissioner?
I think my role is similar to other commissioners. We are structured differently than stick and ball sports like the NFL. Roger Goodell has 32 owners. That's who he reports to. We have 2 owners that own NASCAR, but the race teams are separate. We own a bunch of tracks, or a bunch of tracks we don't own. So my job as commissioner, probably the single most important thing, is for us to collaborate together with the stakeholders and actually act like a league. So we are not structured like one, but to optimize our success, you really need everyone to understand the vision of where we're going, understand the plan, and then figure out how they can help you do that. Because it's in their best interest, because that will lead to optimal growth. Because
it's not a league. And so you do have competing interests. Like you said, there's tracks that you own.
Yep.
And there's tracks that you don't own.
That's correct.
I would imagine you deal with them very differently.
Yeah, well, it's super helpful if we can get tracks that we don't own to act in the same manner with our own tracks, right? And I'm not suggesting that our tracks do it better than other tracks. In many cases, they don't. But in a lot of cases, we do. But it's really having them understand where we want to take the sport and what role that they're going to play in it. And so, for example, the track group that is the largest next to ours, that owns the most tracks, is a company called Speedway Motorsports out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and their CEO, Marcus Smith. His relationship with me and mine with him is really important, and to make sure that that filters down through my organization and his, that we're going to operate as a partner.
I interviewed his dad.
Yeah, Bruton, yeah.
He always had the sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But he was like a
force.
I was going to say, I got the impression, I didn't know him, but I interviewed him. He was a no-nonsense dude. Like, it was
a visionary. And I was kind of like, Bill France Sr., a visionary.
NASCAR's history obviously came from literally the beach of Daytona. And then over time, it grew and grew and grew. It's a multi-billion-dollar business now. It's, I don't want to say a global corporation, but a race just in Mexico City. Very successful, by the way.
It was.
Congrats to Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG as he is known, for showing everybody how it's done on a road course, by the way.
Yeah, he's a tremendous road course racer.
He's amazing. And by the way, the crowds looked amazing. So I guess we'll call it a billion-dollar global business now. Where does NASCAR go? How does it operate as a business for the next 25 years? Because it's not the dirt tracks of Daytona anymore. I mean, it's a long way from that.
No, I think for us, and fortunately, we've seen growth. So I think if you look globally at motorsports, and then domestically at global sports, in 2018, motorsports was struggling. So we were struggling, IndyCar, F1, but there's been a resurgence since 2019, and we've all experienced growth, which is helpful, obviously. And so F1's doing really well here in this country and around the world. We're doing well in this country. IndyCar is coming back, NHRA. If you think about motorsports, IMSA, which is another is sports car racing.
I watch every lap of every race.
A series that's part of the NASCAR family. And
you oversee that as well.
Technically, yes. But I think, for us, I think there's both domestic growth that we will experience over the next 20 years. And I think it's incredibly fertile ground for us to grow internationally. And I say that because of the style of racing we have, right? So we are close side-by-side racing, kind of what we would call beating and banging, if you will, and trading paint. And that's a style of racing that people like. And it's loud, it's a sensory experience. Like it's a sensory overload when you go to a race. And for us, getting people to a race is critical, because if you go to a race, typically you'll become a fan, or at least you have an appreciation for what it is. And so we just want people to consider us in their consideration set, right? And so what we try to do is we try to meet them where they are. And we try to meet them where they are through content like Earnhardt on Amazon, which is the #1 show a week or so ago. The Garage 56 Project and a show on Amazon called American Thunder, or Netflix Full Speed. And they're meeting people where they are to have them understand or have an appreciation for the sport. And I think we've done a decent job with that. We bought or built a brand new productions facility, and we're pumping out really robust content from there, and it's working.
IndyCar and F1 both kind of did their best to kill themselves years ago. IndyCar split in half. Half the drivers went over here, half went over there. Ratings were terrible. Formula One, I think the low point was when they had 6 cars start at Indy because they had a tire problem.
Issue,
and it was follow the leader, and you kind of knew who was going to win every race. They've done a good job. Both F1 and IndyCar have done a very good job coming back. We'll talk more about F1. There's this Brad Pitt guy. I don't know if you've heard about him.
I have heard about him.
He's like 60, but he's 40, but he looks amazing, and he's going to have a movie. We'll talk about that in a second. But there's more competition for the motorsports dollar as those other forms of racing come back up. Now, not everybody's going to be like me. I watch every lap of every race. IMSA, NASCAR.
Thank you.
Much to the chagrin of my family. I will sometimes do it late at night after recording the races. But how do you compete with that motorsports dollar?
Yeah, for us, Brian, I actually don't view them as competitors. Our competitors I view as more holistically, and I think it's really not just motorsports. Actually, not even just sports. It's entertainment, and we are competing for that dollar. We are competing for your time and other people's time, because if they're not watching NASCAR, are they watching Netflix? Are they watching movies? Are they watching CNBC? What are they doing when they're not doing that? So it's super competitive. Mm-hmm. I believe if motorsports broadly is rising, we're the #1 in motorsports in this country by a wide margin. We're going to be the beneficiary of that. And I do, as I said, I believe that global expansion for us is important. Yeah. Like most people don't know is we have 4 racing series around the globe. We have a series in Canada, we have a series in Mexico, we have a series in Brazil, and we have a series in Europe. All meant to do 3 things. Driver development, so getting drivers from other countries to come to our national series, like Daniel Suarez, who graduated from our Mexico series and then went up and raced in our national series and has won races in our national series. He was our Xfinity Series champion. In
a track in Germany called Rockingham, or am I making that up?
there's a track in North Carolina called Rockingham.
No, I know that, but I was watching something in Germany, and there was like literally a guy like now. I'm like, what is this? And it was NASCAR guys in Germany.
So that's
driving. I was like, what in the world?
So our European series, they're in Spain, they're in England at Brands Hatch, they're in France, they're in a number of other countries, Croatia, and that's
very cool.
But again, it's driver development, it's fan development, and it's actually in some cases owner development. So we think that as they're growing, like we've had some success out of Canada with drivers. Daniel is the poster child for success for us. Mm-hmm. I was in Brazil at our Mexico series Brazil series race at Sao Paulo at Interlagos 5 weeks ago, and those fans down there, like the Mexican fans, they are passionate. Bells and horns and hooting and hollering, and it's a crazy, passionate fan base for motorsports.
Are you happy with the streaming numbers on Amazon?
Been very happy with them. I think if you look at the Coke 600, I think it was average 2.7 million over that 4.5 hours. It's a long race. They're averaging 1 million viewers on average per minute in their post-race show, which is Amazon, which is on Amazon Prime, those numbers are unheard of. And I think they brought their own flair to it, which we knew they would. And I think they have the fan, both fan as well as the garage reaction to Amazon Prime has been overwhelmingly positive. So we've been thrilled with them. Everything they said they would do, they've done. And for us, it's an important thing, right? If you think about where cable is, right? And so cable had some declines, and now it's...
What?
And now, but it's steadying, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, how do you see it playing out? Because the TV, you're a couple years into a 7-year, $7.7 billion. I'm not sure why there's so many sevens. 7-year, $7.7 billion TV deal. You've got Fox, you've got NBC, you've got Amazon, you've got USA. There's various. How does the TV partnership side play out over the next few years for the next deal?
Listen, I don't know what the next deal is going to look like, which is why this deal was so important. Not just because of the money and the money that feeds the industry, and it does. Like our whole stakeholder group is fed by media money. So we have a blend, right? So we have, Fox that has broadcast. They have 4 races they broadcast on Big Fox. Then they have 8 races they did on FS1. Then we rolled into Amazon Prime. For 5 races, and then we're going to Turner Sports shortly with our first in-season tournament, which is going to be really cool. And then we are back with NBC, so big NBC with 4 races, and on USA with 10 races. So it's a blend of broadcast, cable, and streaming. Or in Turner's case, they'll have cable with Turner and True TV, and simulcast on Max. So you're kind of getting a blended universe, which is important because, again, you're trying to meet people where they are.
Is there too much blending? I would say this, and it's not just with NASCAR, by the way. It's you look at NFL. There's days where it's like, where's the game? And then people say, well, it's on Amazon, okay, or it's on Peacock, or it's on CBS. And there's a fear that you're going to lose viewers because they don't know where to find stuff because there's so many media partners.
Yeah, so I think we've been surprised pleasantly by the Prime numbers, as I said, the Amazon Prime numbers. If you go on Amazon and buy something this Sunday, you will, and the race is, the Pocono race, it will say that the Pocono race is there. We are up on, on the top of that screen, which is tremendous. And they've plugged in different places for us. So was there a fear about dilution around distribution? Yeah, there was a fear. But for us, we thought it was really important to test a streamer, right? So there were lots of people who doubted that the numbers would be as good as they are. I mean, there's a pundit who thought the numbers, and I won't say who it is because it's a current partner, their research person thought Amazon Prime would do 1.2 million average viewers on for the Coke 600.
It was over 2 million.
2.7.
Yeah.
So he missed by just a smidge.
50%, more than half off.
But
you can't blame him because the first race, I forgot that it was on Amazon.
Right.
I was like, oh, now I'm lucky I have all the services.
Yeah. I think what
but I'm in a position where I can have all the services.
Like if you look at what they did with the NFL, year 1 was good, year 2 was better, year 3 was terrific. And the numbers grew significantly. So I think there's going to be that as well. And then additionally, as we knew it would be, like the NFL, the average age of the viewer dropped by, for us, I think the NFL's was 8, ours was 6. That's a good thing for us. And then the fifth media partner we have is Nexstar, or the CW. And they are all broadcast on the CW. And it's 33 races. And to date, they're up 20% versus where.
Do you see that continuing? I know it's hard to predict the future. I get it. But with you mentioned cable's woes, everybody's either cutting the cord or in some cases, like our kids, they'll never have a cord. They're gonna stream. That's what they do. Yeah. The Hulus, the Peacocks, the Netflix, the Amazons, whatever of the world. What does NASCAR see happening with that?
I really don't know. I think we are cable heavy. We have been able to hold our numbers. In fact, our numbers are actually up 6% on cable, despite the fact that the universe continues to go down. So if you think about it, if the universe was 90, 95, 100 million for cable, and now it's 60, 62, 65, whatever it is, the fact that there's been a 40% drop in the universe, and we haven't dropped at all, in fact, we're growing, I think says a lot about our fans and our fans' ability to find those races.
I don't want to get too wonky because we got a lot of casual viewers that may not be that into NASCAR. The teams have what's called a charter. It's basically kind of the right to race every race without having to qualify, race their cars in. without getting into it too deeply because it's a legal case, it's wonky. NASCAR is currently in like a legal battle with Michael Jordan's team, co-owned by Denny Hamlin and some others. Can you explain sort of in layman's terms what that fight is all about and how you think or hope it's going to turn out?
So the suit was brought by 2311, which is the company. The majority owner is Michael Jordan. Minority owner is Denny Hamlin, who's one of our drivers, very successful driver.
One of the best drivers, yeah.
Yeah, it's 158 Cup races. He's a tremendous talent. Listen, I'm not sure why they decided to bring a suit, and there's another team called Front Row that also partnered with them on this suit. It is an antitrust case. We don't believe it's an antitrust case. We believe it's a
I think they called you
issue.
monopolistic.
Yes, and I think what I would say on that, Brian, and the viewers I think will get this. There was a significant increase in revenue that the teams got. So over the period of time, I think that the increase that we offered the race team contract to contract was an increase of 73%. That's a significant increase. If you have, in my opinion, if you're a monopolist, right, and you have that monopolist behavior, you're not going to increase by 73%. You're actually going to go backwards because you have that ability to do it. For us, that's not what we wanted to do because we need healthy race teams. Healthy race teams puts on better racing. And so I hear from fans, I really don't care about all this. Well, you should care. You should care that your race teams are healthy because if they're healthy, it's just a better experience for the race fans. So what's going to happen here? We're obviously defending ourselves vigorously. Two options. You either settle or you go to trial. As I sit here today, I have no idea what's going to happen. I would like to have.
You don't want to be in a legal fight with Michael Jordan.
I don't. I personally, I like Michael Jordan, and I think that he's brought some new eyeballs to the sport and
passion to win.
And he
tends to win at pretty much everything.
He's very competitive.
Yeah.
And
wins at fishing,
golf. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we're in this legal spot.
Well, when you're dealing with billions of dollars, there are lawsuits. What's the view on private equity money in NASCAR? Because private equity money, as we know, is coming into college sports in a huge way. In fact, it's coming into high school sports. I had a sports agent tell me last week, Steve, that he has a 15-year-old client that got a $675,000 paycheck. 15 years old. Wow. 9th grade.
Crazy.
All right, because so money is flowing into sports. What's the NASCAR view on private equity money?
Sure. So we allow private equity to buy a percentage of a charter, and they are. So, Harris Blitzer partnered with Joe Gibbs Racing, and they bought a piece. You have Trackhouse, which is where SVG, Daniel Suarez, and Ross Chastain race. Avenue Capital came in there, Mark Lazary. And then you have...
Former owner of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Frequent
guest on CNBC.
So, and then you have Nighthead Capital, that's based here in the city, that partnered with Legacy. And I think it's a good thing, honestly. So we're seeing lots of money, lots of capital come into NASCAR teams, not NASCAR proper, but NASCAR the teams, buying equity position in the teams. And I think it's a good thing. One, I think it makes the race teams more competitive. Fan wins, good for the race team. Two, they're bringing in many cases, knowledge, expertise that the race teams don't have. And then three, in many cases, they're actually bringing in additional sponsorship with businesses they either own or are affiliated with. So I'm a big fan of private equity coming. They cannot be the majority owner.
Because they will take control.
Right. So
I think, isn't that the risk, is that the money coming in is good, too much money, sacrificing control is not what you want, which I think is why you also have a strong view on what we call sovereign wealth fund, which would be like, the national money of Qatar or Saudi Arabia coming in like golf and changing things.
So right now our charters prohibit sovereign wealth. But we are fans of private equity, there's a percentage that they can own. They can't go over that percentage. And there needs to be a control person that is a person, not a company. But I've been pleased, and I've probably met with myself in the last 2 years, a couple dozen private equity firms. They are a buyer of NASCAR.
Yeah.
And they're coming because they expect NASCAR to continue to grow. And that's my expectation.
Well, you had on Netflix, you referenced it earlier, Drive to Survive for F1, this new F1 movie. This Brad Pitt guy, I don't know, he's a pretty good actor, and he somehow doesn't age. Is there like a NASCAR? I know we've obviously had some of these shows. You're talking about your production studio. Sure. But when I talk about NASCAR as a longtime racer, I still have people ask me like, oh, do you guys wear helmets? Like, first off, I don't race NASCAR. And they'll bring up Talladega Nights. Is there something that NASCAR can do on the media side to do that?
So I think from a
Brad Pitt.
Sure. Listen, we're into some discussions right now. There's some screenplays that are being written right now that are more drama related. I can't get into that.
Breaking news, I think.
There's no, it is in there.
And Carl Edwards as Carl Edwards.
He looks good too.
He does look good. He doesn't age either.
So I think, for us, our content through the productions facility and the relationships that we've been able to do, whether it's the Netflix show Full Speed or the Amazon shows or other places that we've been able to distribute through different outlets, that's important for us. And would I like to have a F1 style movie? It's pretty cool because we talked about IMSA very briefly before. I haven't seen the movie, but the start of the movie in the first 15, 20 minutes is taking place at the Daytona 500. And it's the 24 hours of Daytona or the Rolex.
Yes.
And that's how essentially he qualifies apparently to then go to,
because he's a racer who's great, and then there was an accident, and it's actually Top Gun-ish, but it's actually directed, I think, by the Top Gun director. Yeah, so you think, so the headline is there may or may not be some kind of NASCAR thing.
So there's a show, and I'm not suggesting this is where we're going.
Okay.
But back in the day, around Top Gun, same director, Jerry Bruckheimer, and Days of Thunder.
Yeah, I've heard of that, yes.
Will there be a Days of Thunder too? The mellow yellow car, yeah.
Come on.
So we'll see where all that goes, but there are other writers, content, screenplays that are being written now, and we're excited about that maybe in the future for us.
And I will wrap it up with this. As somebody that spent a portion of my childhood in San Diego, is there going to be a San Diego street course race for NASCAR? It's widely sort of rumored out there.
I've heard those rumors.
Yes.
Listen, are we in some discussions with the folks in San Diego? Yeah, we're in discussions with a lot of different cities. The great news about where NASCAR is, we've proven that we can race on the streets. We've proven that we can race in a stadium. It's an open canvas for us now to determine where we're going to race. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to open new eyes. So the streets of Chicago,
great race.
80% of the people that bought a ticket to that race in the first 2 years had never been to a NASCAR race. The LA Coliseum, same number, same percentage. So when we're going to these new places, we're opening the eyes of people who want to participate in our sport, which is number one portion of my job.
So San Diego's not a no.
San Diego's not a no.
It's not a no.
It's not a yes.
Not a yes, but it's not a no.
But it's not a no.
I love, listen, Steve, I love the street races. I love what you guys are doing. I love the Roval in Charlotte, which is a half oval and then road course. It just provides a different vibe on the race. No knock on the ovals at all, but a real pleasure thanks for sitting down with us here on CNBC Sport.